Hello, everyone. Today's presentation for our Allen Block University Online is going to cover the Allen Block 3D modeling tool. So a few things we're going to talk about today are kind of a brief overview of what the 3D modeling tool is. We're going to talk briefly about how you can use it to help improve your outputs of AB walls and your retaining wall designs. And we're also going to talk about basically the thought behind the 3D modeling tool and why we decided to use it in SketchUp, some of the uses for it, and then lastly, we're going to finish up with designing a very quick landscape using the 3D modeling tool and just making sure that you guys can see how fast these designs can be created thanks to the 3D modeling tool and how professional you can make it look even in just a short amount of time. But with that, let's go ahead and dive into the presentation. So a little background on the Allen Block 3D modeling tool is basically a while ago we saw the value in 3D modeling and saw that really there's a spot for it in our industry. With anything that you're showing customers, anything that you're designing full sites as well, these 3D models can really be invaluable. When you're able to create a 3D model, there's a few amazing benefits that you get with it. The first is going to be that you're able to show your customer what the project is going to look like. Now, on a commercial site, that might not be as important, but on those residential jobs, being able to show a customer what the finished product is going to look like is amazingly beneficial, especially with getting them to commit to projects. Now, on top of that, on commercial jobs, it is also nice to include a 3D model on the outputs that you give them as part of the design. That just makes sure that they're able to see what a finished product should look like. It helps your installers know what the wall should look like as well. But basically, it's just a nice add-on to any design output you have. Now, like I said, we had thought about this a while ago, but the technology wasn't always there to be able to incorporate it into our design software. Yes, we could have come up with some tool to use, but we wanted to make it as convenient as possible and have you guys, basically like AB walls, do the least amount of work as you really need to do. You can always dive into it and make these designs even more accurate or even more intense, but we wanted to make sure that the output we could provide is able to be sufficient on its own as well. So what we did is we created the Allen Block 3D modeling tool. We connected it to a few different apps of ours that we have available on our website. Now, there's a few main uses. Like I said, it's great for showing customers, but another big use has to do with BIM, or Building Information Modeling. Now, if you aren't familiar with what building information modeling is, basically it's a way to design a 3D model of your project, whatever it is you're working on, and you're going to make sure you include all the different aspects of the project into the 3D model. Now, when you have all of those aspects in the 3D model, you're able to see how they interact with each other. So for the example, I'm going to use a home design. So if you're designing a home and you throw it into a 3D modeling software, you can put in all of the, basically all the water lines, all the gas lines, all the venting, all the HVAC systems, everything like that into your walls, and that is BIM. Because what you're doing there is you're making sure that that HVAC and those water lines don't conflict with each other. They're not running into each other anywhere. You're making sure they get routed properly, everything is placed properly. And by doing this, what you're really doing is making sure that you have less change orders later on in the process. You're making sure that everything flows freely and works well together, and that way you don't get surprised later on in the process when you're installing and you come across a spot where a water line was supposed to run straight through an HVAC, a venting system. But so that's the usefulness of BIM. In the world of retaining walls, it's useful when you create that site design in your 3D model, and then you throw in our retaining wall that's created with the AB 3D modeling tool. And what you'll be able to see is what interacts with the grid behind the wall, basically what areas with buried block you have to worry about if there's anything that runs into that as well. So again, it's just a way to make sure that you're fully aware of all the other existing parts on site and how the retaining wall interacts with those. Now, like I said, we have this incorporated into a few of our design tools. The first of that is the AB retaining wall app. This is going to be the simplest of them all, and we're not going to talk about it too much, but it is useful for those quick retaining wall designs. It really doesn't design anything per se, but it's a great way to get estimates and create a 3D model for any walls that are under 6 feet. So basically what you're going to do there is create a bird's eye view of your wall. Then you're going to choose the elevation. You're going to say what's above your wall, what type of soil you have, and it's going to output a little PDF that includes an estimate, cross sections of your wall, and it'll also include an email that sends you a Ruby script to open in the AB 3D modeling tool. Now, the other one that we're going to talk about more in depth here is AB walls. So our integration into AB walls is relatively new. If you guys aren't familiar with AB walls, it's a very easy way to design retaining walls that are Allan block walls. Extremely efficient. You'll see I'll quickly go through a design of a retaining wall today, but it's just worth noting that it is free software, so there is a big customer base. Obviously, there's lots of people building Allan block walls in general. So I do encourage you guys, if you don't already have it, to request a copy today, just because it's easy to get, it's free. We offer free tutorials on it as well, so that you're able to design retaining walls on your own. Now, you can see here, this is one of the outputs of the software. It's got your plan view, it's got your panel views, and it's got your cross sections of each of your walls. You can also choose so that it goes into more depth with really making sure you get the internal and external results as well, and the calculations with that. And then on top of that, it's always nice to have a full quantity estimate, which it outputs as well. Another output that you can create from AB walls is an export to DXF. Now, exporting to DXF is something that we added not too long ago. And it's been around for a while, but it's relatively new. And the real benefit with this is time saving. So as you design a wall in AB walls, it's one thing to make sure that all of the parts of the wall work. You've got the correct lengths of geogrid, you've got enough buried block, your internal compound stability works out, all of your factors of safety are met. That's all extremely important. Now, if you need to take all of those designs and all of those outputs and put them into your own submittals or your own outputs, that can be a real hassle to have to draw out each cross section of the wall, each section design. And with the export to DXF, we found a way where we could code in to our software the code it takes to draw out the files so that you can open them in your CAD software and it'll already have everything drawn at a 1-to-1 scale. So when we did that, there was huge benefits to time saving to all of our customers. And that was something that, we got a lot of positive feedback on. People talked about how it helped them move along in their process or move along in the wall design much faster. The outputs are very professional. You can change all the colors. You can move the different components of the drawing as well. So we really saw the importance of time savings here and efficiency. And so we wanted to extend that into the 3D modeling world too. 3D modeling is getting so big now, especially with networks like the Do-It-Yourself Network and your home and garden TV. These are all things that have promoted 3D modeling pretty recently, and it's becoming more and more the standard to show customers what they're getting. So we saw the importance of adding the 3D modeling tool, and we were really given a great avenue with that with SketchUp. So as we were deciding to go into this 3D modeling tool, we had to look at which software we wanted to use. Now, there's tons of software out there for 3D modeling, but we ended up going with SketchUp, and there's a few different reasons for that. A little background on SketchUp is that it used to be a product of Google. It was a project of theirs where basically it was a free 3D modeling tool that anyone could download, and it was very community based. You were able to code in it. That was one of the main benefits to us, is that there's an option inside of SketchUp to where you can open up a little console and you can write certain commands in there that will draw lines, they'll draw squares, it'll texture stuff. And it is pretty complex, but as you get more familiar with it, it makes more and more sense. And basically, you're able to create these extensions to where you can have code written and it'll draw out 3D models. Now, since then, SketchUp has been bought by a company called Trimble. Now, Trimble, what they did is they took SketchUp and they made it not only extremely community-based, but they really enhanced that extension creating that we talked about, and they made it into a big community effort where you can create, or users can create extensions and put them on their extension warehouse. Now, with that, they did include pro versions of the app now, so now there are paid versions of SketchUp, but there is still a free version of SketchUp called SketchUp Make. We'll talk about in a little bit. But basically, our extension inside of SketchUp is called the 3D modeling tool, a home block 3D modeling tool, and you'll see what you do here is you're going to, when you open it up and you open a file, you'll want to choose a collection, choose the block type, and then choose a color. And we'll show that in just a bit, but it is really useful. You can see here the models are fully textured when they come in. They're to scale, and you also get those cross sections as well. Now, a big benefit to this is that you can take these models that you create with the Allan Block 3D modeling tool, and you can add them into your previously designed models. So you could create the whole site for everything and leave out the retaining wall, and then come in after the retaining wall has been designed and plop it straight into your 3D model. That's what we did here. We had made a template that had, each of these houses, the trees, the street, all of that, and we just plopped the retaining wall into this space right here. Another thing worth noting is that SketchUp also does a great job in their community efforts to provide 3D models that are made by the community that are free to use for any user. So the houses here, this house, the tree here, this car, this person, these are all things that basically were designed by other SketchUp users and made free for everyone to use. So that's part of their 3D warehouse, and it's just a way for you to save time on your designs as well. You can see here we've brought a bridge in, and we created a wall, basically a bridge abutment here. So lots of users on the software and on the Allan Block 3D modeling tool. That's why it's so nice, is that everybody has a benefit to 3D, whether it's on a large scale or a small scale, but it is useful for all of our different customer groups, and it just brings a nice little touch into any design. Like I said before, our vision was to extend all of our apps together. So we wanted to combine our AB walls with our retaining wall app and with our courtyard app that you don't see here as well. But basically, SketchUp provided a way for us to bring in all of those designs together. So I can design a wall with AB walls, and then I can add it to a 3D model of a courtyard project that I created as well. And the main benefit of this is that we can use our retaining walls and our courtyard projects together to create these stunning visual aspects, or these stunning visuals for our walls that really get customers to visualize what it would be like to have these walls and patios. So you can see here, you can imagine a customer seeing this and saying, oh, I can totally see myself hosting the neighbors, having a family dinner outside, and after dinner, you go relax by the bonfire. Here you can sell it as, oh, you've got an older customer who really has trouble gardening and bending over to garden, so they decide to move their garden up into a terrace wall application. So there's all these ways that people can basically envision themselves in the designs, and that'll help them get more comfortable with really committing to the designs as well. Now, SketchUp, like I talked about, has these pro versions of SketchUp now that are, they do come with a cost, but it's worth noting the cost for the pro versions of SketchUp are much lower than any other 3D modeling software. But also, they do have on their website still, if you follow this link, which I'll include in a follow-up email tomorrow, basically they've got this SketchUp Make 2017. SketchUp Make is their free version of the software. It's considered a hobbyist version, so as long as you're not making money on these designs, you're free to use the SketchUp Make version. But really, that's going to be the best version to get to see if this is something that's worth you investing in. It's free to use. You can still use our extension with it, and it's got pretty much all of the capabilities of the full software. We do also have reference cards that give you step-by-step instructions on how to install SketchUp and also how to install the extension once you do get SketchUp. It also has some SketchUp tips and tricks on the other side as well. And I'll include a model or basically a PDF of this card as well in the follow-up email. Now, SketchUp is something you'll see as I go through a sample project. If you guys have never used SketchUp before, it can be a little overwhelming when you first get into it. Even just navigating around can be difficult. So I would say if you are new to SketchUp, the best thing you can do to learn more about SketchUp and how to become proficient in it is to basically just go to YouTube and search SketchUp tutorial. And that's going to give you a ton of different tutorials on starting from the basics, the very basics of even just moving the screen around, and it'll get more and more advanced so you can start editing your walls and really making it look lifelike. Now, that 3D modeling tool, like I said, is part of SketchUp's extension warehouse. In the extension warehouse, basically once you create an account and sign in, you can just search Allan Block 3D modeling tool and download it and install it, and it'll add it right into SketchUp in its own extension tab. And once you do get that extension tab, you just click on the Allan Block 3D modeling tool, and we've got 4 different buttons. This folder button is going to be to open files that you've saved from your retaining wall app, your courtyard app, or AB walls to really open up those 3D models. The star is to create, basically it takes you to a library of our favorite 3D models that we like to use that other people have created. So that's going to include flowers and trees and people and cars, all these things that basically so you don't have to search that 3D warehouse to get these models. The kit is going to be a button that allows you, basically it takes you to a library of Allan Block kits. So that's going to be our patio packages. It's going to be our design elements like posts and courtyard fireplaces, things like that. And then lastly, the information button is going to just take you to our website to give you some tips and tricks on how to use the 3D modeling software. Now, another neat thing inside of SketchUp is that they have a mobile app. So this mobile app, the SketchUp Viewer app it's called, you can download it on iPads, iPhones, or Android phones. Basically, inside of that, they have a pro version. That pro version costs $10 per year, but it is super cool. So what you can do with the SketchUp app is basically open any 3D model inside of the app on your phone. You can look around at it, but we also have the ability to walk through our projects. So there you can see some projects that we designed using the AB 3D modeling tool. And what we can do is take those designs and show them through our viewfinder on our phone. So you can see this wall here is actually a 3D model created from the AB 3D modeling tool overlaid on top of another wall in real life. So here we'll go through a demonstration of it. You can see on my phone, I opened up a courtyard project that I created using the Courtyard app with the 3D modeling tool in SketchUp. So you can see this is already valuable to show what the wall or the courtyard patio will look like. But once we've looked at it, we can just click this AR button in the bottom left corner. It's going to open up the camera on our phone. You can see it gives some instructions to basically scan around the area. So you can see I'm out at the golf course here and I'm scanning the area. Our model pops up. And then basically what we want to do is move down and get as close to the surface that we're planting it to, tap, and then we can back up again. And you can see here how basically it pins it in place and it creates a walkthrough of your courtyard product. And this works the same with walls as well. So you can show a wall on a site just like it would look if you were to design it. As you can see, we can actually walk through using the viewfinder on our camera, on our phone. We can even look into the fireplace here. So it's super interactive, a really cool feature that whether it's beneficial to you or not, it is really cool, and it certainly does catch the attention of any customers as well. It can also help you see what a wall will look like on site and just give you a better understanding of how it'll look. Now, so we talked a little bit about the retaining wall app. We talked about the Courtyard app that I used to create that patio. And then we also have AB Walls. So the retaining wall app and the Courtyard app are available on our website under the Estimating Tools tab. But AB Walls, you do have to request a version from us if you don't have it. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into AB Walls. We're going to create a sample wall, and then we're going to open it up inside of SketchUp and create a 3D model with it and try to make it as lifelike as possible in the short amount of time that we have. So I'm going to jump over here into SketchUp. You'll see if we look at the time here, it's about 10:25, 10:24 here. And we're going to see how long it takes to go from no design for a wall at all to a pretty realistic output in such a short amount of time. So if you haven't seen AB Walls, we'll go through it very briefly here. If this is something that's valuable to you, again, I would request it from our engineering department here, and we do offer free one-on-one tutorials. So always, if you get confused while I'm going through this, I would encourage you to take advantage of that. But this first page here, I need to select my producer. We're located in Minnesota here, so I'm going to choose Amcon. Amcon is our local producer. Click Next. Then I choose the collection that I want to use. We've got all of our different collections in here. You can see pictures of them when you click on them. But I'm just going to do our classic block. That tends to be what most projects use. I'm going to choose a grid and click Next. I'm going to go ahead and type in our project information. I'm going to choose a location. You don't need to fill this out. This is basically what will show up on any of your printing outputs. But I like to just type it in. And then we get into our AB Walls. So you can see here, we start off on the elevation page. Now, inside of the elevation page, we can come in here and put in our top and bottom of walls. This is typically something you would get from your site plan. But what I'm going to do is just type in some values here. I'm going to say so we're going to say the top of our wall changes. see we've got our wall here. We can go ahead and actually I'm going to change this to okay. We move on to our plan view. Our plan view is necessary for our app, so I'm going to say we start 0, 0. And we're going to go to so let's go 3, 0. Oops. And then let's go 53, and let's add a radius here. 7. Perfect. So you can see our wall. We simply just got a 90-degree wall here. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next page where we're going to choose our sections. I'm just going to choose a few random ones. And we'll go ahead and move on to the design. So I'm just going to do a pretty standard design. I'm going to calculate all of our sections. And now we have calculated each of our sections. So basically our wall is designed. And what I'm going to do now is export this into 3D. So you can see the wall design we completed. We started at 10:24, so we did a wall design in 5 minutes. And so now I'm going to go into our 3D export tab. If you didn't see that, I went to File, DXF Reset 3D Export. And then I go over to the Export 3D tab, and then click Export Ruby Script for Allan Block 3D Modeling Tool. I'm just going to call our project example 2. Click Save. It says Finished, and I'm going to go over into SketchUp, create a new project. Let's see, we've got a little guy here to start. I'm just going to delete him out. We've got our 3D modeling tool here. I got that by going to extensions and clicking Allan Block 3D modeling tool. So it'll pop up this toolbar. And we're going to open our file that we just saved. So I'm going to click the folder. I'm going to choose my collection. Again, we use the AV collection and we use the classic. And I like the brown blend, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to go ahead and click Open File. And I'm going to choose example 2. That's what we just saved. Click Open. It's going to be 1, 2 seconds. And we got our cross sections and our 3D model of our retaining wall. And you can see it's fully textured. It's got, each course is one block, as you can see here. And then what we can do is basically finish off our wall design. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and come in here, and I'm going to say, okay, I want to do a rectangle. I'm just going to start it here. And I'm just going to move it in line with our wall. I'm going to color it with grass. I'm going to, let's say we want to add in a little paver set. Actually, let's go ahead and add a courtyard. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Kit. Kit's going to open up our website, and it's going to open up these patio packages. So let's say I want to use this Vienna patio package. I can click that. I can click Download, SketchUp 2017 model. It'll put it into the downloads thing of my browser. I can just take that and drag that file straight into SketchUp. And I'm going to then let's just move that onto our where we want it. I'm going to rotate this. Okay, so we put that there. Let's say we want to add a different kit, maybe a bar. I can go into Elements, choose the bar. I can download, same deal here. It goes into my downloads. Bring it straight into SketchUp. And I can just move it wherever I want on our model. Just going to move this way. So we've got our bar, we've got our patio. Now let's add some landscaping. So I'm going to click on the star to go to favorites. I'm going to choose trees. I like this tree here. So I'm going to click on 3D Warehouse. I'm going to click Download, SketchUp 2017 model. Put it in my downloads again. Drag it straight into my model. And we've got a tree here. I can copy that into different parts of our model. Maybe put one above the wall too. Okay, and let's say we want some flowers above our wall. Let's go back into our favorites. And let's do these hydrangeas. Same deal, download, SketchUp 2017. Puts it in our downloads. Drag it straight into our model. Leaf. So again, I'm just going to copy a few of those out. So we've got our flowers above our wall. What else could we use? Let's go back into favorites and see what else we have. Let's go ahead and add a potted plant. Let's go ahead and So I'm just going to add our potted plant onto maybe one here. And one in that corner as well. And you can see we've got basically our wall. And we can take this, we can line it up how we want. And we get a little bit of that tree. And then I can go ahead and get the angle I want. I can go ahead and go to view. I can go into edge style and turn off profile. And then I can go into view, edge style, and turn off edges. And that gets rid of those black lines, makes the little design a little smoother. And lastly, view, and I can click shadows to turn on shadows. So you can see we get a little more depth into our model. And now I've got a relatively realistic design. You can see how this looks pretty professional. If I showed this to someone, obviously we would have this paper leading to something rather than just out in the open. But the time is 10:38, so we did this in 8 minutes. You can see how this is something that you can imagine how detailed you could get if you had an hour or 2 hours. And the retaining wall, which would have easily taken the most time of this design, even for me as someone who's very experienced in this 3D modeling tool, that would take a very long time. So just the fact that we were able to drop it in and build our project around it is hugely time saving. But what I can do here then is if I want to add this onto an output, all I have to do is click File, Export, 2D Graphic, and I can save it as, I'm going to save it as example image 2. I can export it, it's going to save it, and then what I can do is go ahead and open any sort of template I have. So I have created these templates. If you guys use a different template, that's fine, but I can go ahead and open this publisher file. You can see we've got our little title box at the bottom. I'm just going to click Insert, Picture Placeholder. I'm going to basically just fill in this space here. I'm going to click the picture on the inside, browse from File, go to Documents. We just saved example image 2. I'm going to insert it, and it puts it right in there. I can move it to however I want. Okay, that's how I want it. Then I can add in project name. Oops. Test project. Location. And you get the idea. So you can see how we can add this to our AB walls output that we create, and it's just going to enhance the professionalism of our outputs. It's going to give them a little something extra to make their eyes kind of glitter. You know, they see this and they're a little bit in awe. They can see the project that they had. Whether it's useful for you or not to provide a 3D model, it is certainly something that gets people excited and at least gets their attention as well. But that is the 3D modeling tool. You can see how we started this project at 10:24, so this was in around 15 minutes. I mean, under 20 minutes, we went from nothing to a full design in AB walls that you can see here. We did the full design in AB walls, and we did this full professional looking output in SketchUp as well. But that is our 3D modeling tool and how it's beneficial. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, it's not looking like there are any questions, but if you do think of any questions, feel free to respond to the email I send out tomorrow as a follow-up. Just respond to that with any questions you think of if you have any. But other than that, thank you for taking the time to go through this presentation with me and learn a little bit more about the 3D modeling tool and SketchUp. With that, I'll go ahead and end the meeting. Thanks, guys.